as I said last night, I will be making a video diving into the Omnibus spending bill, exposing what is in this bill, all right? So I already told you guys last night, it is a 4,000-page bill, $1.7 trillion in spending, okay? Totally unchecked. There's no supervising here, and I want to go ahead and describe, first of all, before I go into exactly what happened, what's in this bill, I want to go ahead and describe the process of why we have these massive spending bills. Rand Paul said that he knew this was going to happen.
Mark my words, December 16th, December 18th.
Today is Tuesday, December 20th.
We're going to get a 3,000-page bill.
The text of the bill, which is more than 4,000 pages long,
that'll have been given to us an hour or two before. I know, because this is the way it works every year.
Bill just unveiled a few hours ago, as a matter of fact.
No one will read it. No one will know what it is. But what is a guarantee is that it'll add over $1 trillion in debt next year.
Because what happens is Washington, and I almost think it's intentional because of the gridlock or whatever, the Republicans and Democrats going against each other, you have the gridlock in place, and what happens is there's no agreement on a budget, whatever, it takes forever, and they push it to the very limit, to the point where the government's going to get shut down, and then right before the shutdown, these massive bills come into place where the senators can't even read the bills. They're so massive, we don't have time to read the bills, and they have to vote on it very quickly and pass this legislation into existence, right? And like I said, the problem is that they can't even read the bills themselves. They don't even have time to read the bills. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over some of these things in the bill, show you guys exactly what's in here. The Omnibus spending bill, in large credit due to Representative Dan Bishop, and I did read parts of the bill, but given that it is twice as long as the Bible, it might have taken me a little bit of time. So thankfully, Dan Bishop went ahead and had his team go through this bill and see what is in it. So I'm just going to go ahead and read some of the things that he posted up that are in this bill. All right. So first of all, it expressly prohibits Border Patrol funding from being used to improve border security. As you can see right here, it says to acquire, maintain, or extend border security technology and capabilities, except for technology and capabilities to improve border patrol processing. And then we have down here, ironically enough, this is how idiotic the government is in the United States. We can't have our own border security, but we can allocate $410 million towards border security for Jordan, Lebanon, Egypt, Tunisia, and Oman. Okay, so we're paying for border security for other countries, and we are ignoring our own border in our own country. Now, you tell me if that adds up. You tell me how much sense that makes, because if you ask me, it doesn't make much sense at all. All right. Moving on. $1.4 billion for membership in global multilateral organizations, including the United Nations. You guys can go ahead and let me know in the comment section right now if you're watching this video. Do you think the United Nations overall is a trustworthy organization? Do you think the United States should be giving them $1.4 billion? Because I've seen some very, very shady things come out of the United Nations. We've had countries participating in the United Nations that are very questionable in their own principles. We've had policies come out of the United Nations that are absolutely against the United States. I remember when Obama was president in 2012, we had a lot of these bills being passed into place that took the sovereignty away from the United States to make their own decisions, and basically said that the United Nations has the ability to legislate and supersede the laws of the United States. So I don't necessarily trust the UN. I don't know why we're giving them $1.4 billion. Maybe a couple $1 million, but $1.4 billion, I don't know. A funny note here, the word salmon appears 48 times in the spending bill. Apparently salmon are endangered and we're trying to protect them because salmon are an essential element for the well-being and health of Alaskans. Okay, fair enough. We got to give the Alaskans some attention. You can't forget about them. But $65 million. Let me say that again. $65 million for salmon. Okay. Now, Dan Bishop says seems a little fishy. I would probably agree with Mr. Dan Bishop here on this one. For necessary expenses associated with the restoration of Pacific salmon populations, $65 million to remain available until 2024. Fantastic. $3 million for bee-friendly highways. $5 million more for salmon again, for a cooperative series of agreements with universities, et cetera, to examine the impacts of culverts, roads, and bridges on endangered salmon populations. So they really care about the salmon, but as far as you guys go, I don't think the Americans are really, too much of a focus. But as long as we got the fish, we're chilling. And unless the other fish feel left out of the spending spree, here's $65 million for international fisheries commissions. I mean, another $65 billion for fishing commissions. I don't even necessarily know there's any words to say about that. $575 million for family planning in areas where population growth threatens biodiversity. So here's the whole, World Economic Forum, Bill Gates type of ideas that, humanity is threatening, advancement of the world and of technology and all these types of things, and that biodiversity trumps humanity itself. We should limit the population itself. I mean, yeah, it's just, my question is this. My question is, who writes these bills? Because whoever writes these massively long 4,000-page bills is the person who holds the real power in this situation. Because if we're ushering in this bill, and I saw a video of Rand Paul, I'll throw it up there.
I brought with me the Omni, 4,155 pages. When was it produced? In the dead of the night, 1:30 in the morning when it was released. Now, people argue that it's conservatives' fault. You don't have the Christmas spirit. Somehow you're holding up government. Well, whose job is it to produce this? The people in charge of spending.
There's no way that anybody could read that amount of information in that period of time. It's literally impossible. So the problem is that when we have bills that are that large, we have to vote on them so quickly, we're absolutely going to miss some things. It's impossible not to, because most senators are not going to read the bill. But you can guarantee that whoever writes these massive bills has the real power, because if you can slip in, especially if you use vague language, if you could slip in, $50 million or $100 million or even $1 billion, as we're seeing right here, into some of these programs that, nobody knows where the money's going. There's no oversight. That should tell you right there something fishy's going on, and there's no oversight of the money itself. So what I'm saying is that whoever writes these bills, they hold the real power. And who's going to write a 4,000-page long bill? We need to examine these things and reform the way that we're writing bills at the very least. $65 million in 2 programs for Senator Leahy and Nancy Pelosi. $3.6 million for a Michelle Obama trail in Georgia. We're spending $4 million on a trail. That's interesting right there. A couple other things here. $3 million for LGBTQ museum in New York City. $1.2 million in services for DACA recipients. $47 billion. Here we go right here. $47 billion in Ukraine. And we're getting a Ukrainian independence park here in D.C. I don't... What's the deal with Ukraine? Seriously. What is the deal with you? Why are we worshiping Ukraine? Why are we giving them billions of dollars? Like I told you in the last video, every time I get on Twitter, there's more money to Ukraine. We're sending billions of dollars to Ukraine, right? And now we're going to give them a park in the nation's capital in D.C. Something is going on with this whole thing. Okay, Zelensky, I saw he's coming over here today. He's going to go in front of Congress and probably put on a whole act and want more money. And the thing is this. I'm not against Ukraine. I support Ukraine, whatever. I support the Ukrainian people. But something weird is going on in Ukraine. If you don't see that, you must be blind. That's all I'm going to say, because we're sending them money constantly. There's no oversight. Billions and billions of dollars, enough to fund a massive nation's military, the Russian military. Something's going on. The FBI is getting a $375 million headquarters. I mean, I'm not even going to say anything. Nothing needs to be said about that. This is a weird one right here. I was reading this earlier. As if we needed more power in the hands of people that are not checked. As if we did not just go through a pandemic and have people in bureaucracy that are making shady decisions that are not voted on by the people. As if we needed more, we're going to go ahead and basically create a pandemic czar as Dan Bishop says here. I said that wrong, czar, and give it more power. And I want to tie a connection directly here between what's going on with this section of the bill and something I heard from the World Economic Forum, Mr. Klaus Schwab, talking about pandemic readiness, pandemic preparedness, and Klaus Schwab himself was saying the next time we have a pandemic, or maybe this is Bill Gates, either one of those, one of the two, 100% I know that. The next two pandemics, or the next pandemic, we need to have basically a worldwide singular response that is sweeping, and every government needs to be on board, and we need to have complete power and control over this next pandemic. All right, now keep that in mind when I read this. This is in the spending bill. This is in the 4,000-page spending bill. Why is this in the spending bill? Makes no sense. There is established in the Executive Office of the President an Office of Pandemic Preparedness and Response Policy, which shall be headed by a director appointed by the President and who shall be compensated at the rate, blah, 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 compensation. The President is authorized to appoint not more than 2 associate directors who shall be compensated at the certain rate. So the President is going to, if this bill passes, have the ability to appoint a Pandemic Preparedness and Response Policy Director who's going to direct the policy of a pandemic if it happens. So, what is the potential issue there? I think you guys can go ahead and think for yourself on what kind of issue that could pose, right? Not good, not good. EPA gets $10.1 billion, $108 million for environmental justice. So we're taking $108 million, a tenth of $1 billion for environmental justice. Nice. $900 million for land acquisition, and he says, doesn't the federal government have enough own enough land already? You know, good point. You can see the federally owned land here in the red. So we're just buying more land, which I don't know, good or bad. I don't really know about that one. $166 million for neighborhood reinvestment activities. Another weird one here: $4 million for shared equity housing models. So this is kind of weird because if you guys have heard about, the Orwellian ideology, socialism, these type of things, you hear about shared equity housing and basically the idea of communal living. So it's interesting. I'm not sure if it's talking about, like low income housing, but shared equity to me sounds like socialist type of stuff. The Pentagon will get $8.6 million for gender advisor programs. Okay, so we're spending taxpayer dollars on the whole gender ideology situation. And to sum up this second analysis, $37 billion for Ukraine. The bill allocates $47 billion, bringing total aid to $100 billion. Zelensky will address Congress tonight and will ask for probably even more money. And we have Nancy Pelosi comparing him to Winston Churchill and saying democracy is on the line. I wanted to give you guys a basic understanding of what's in the spending bill. The Omnibus spending bill clearly has laughable allocations. All right, laughable allocations, questionable allocations. Like I said, this is an issue. We cannot have bills that cannot be read. We need bills that senators can read, that are simple, short and straight to the point. And like I said in my last video, let me know what you think down below. I saw somebody comment, said the Republicans have been in power, spending has just gone up. I'm not a Republican whatever. I don't really like Republicans because the fact is they justify these spending bills as well, a lot of them. Not true Republicans, but most of them do. So they're both fake, if you ask me. The Democrats and Republicans largely are fake. But this is my point. We cannot have bills that are too large to read. We need bills that can be read. We need to be able to read them easily, understand what's in them, and pass them effectively and efficiently. So I think we need some reform. I think we need some type of policy reform to ensure that our bills are short, they're readable, they're comprehensible, and also with our budget. This is my last point. Our inflation is out of control because we're spending more than we bring in. I think we need a policy to ensure that we don't spend more than we bring in. You guys can let me know what you think down below about that one. Do you think we should lock our spending at our current income, barring some emergency scenarios? Let me know right now. Basic understanding of what's in this bill is what I wanted to give to you guys. If you made it this far in the video, make sure you like the video, subscribe here to State in the Obvious for more news and political commentary and analysis from an unbiased, common sense perspective. With that being said, I will see everybody next video. Peace out.